All right, guys. So here is our open response question for today's lesson. It's called Going to the Puppet Show. So let's read through it. Let's look at the information that they're giving us, and then we'll take a look at the question that they're asking us to solve. A theater has 100 seats. 4 schools are sending children to a puppet show at the theater. The first school will send 21 children. The second will send 13. The third will send 42. And the fourth will send 19. Okay, so there's our information. And let's look at the question that they're asking us. Are there enough seats in the theater for all the children? Show and explain how you figured your answer. Okay, so let's go back to the number story. Here's our information that we need to know. There's 100 seats. That's how many seats there are. We cannot fill more than 100 seats. So our job with this number story is to figure out if these 4 schools that sent these 4 groups of children are going to have too many kids to fill the seats or are going to have just enough or too few. It's okay if we don't fill all the seats, but we can't go over 100. So I want for you to think about, how would you solve this? How are you going to figure out if there is enough seats? Well, they're asking us to take these 4 schools, bring together all the children from those 4 schools, and see if 100 seats is going to be enough for all of them. When you hear that word all in a number story, it typically means that you are going to add. So, how are we going to add all 4 of these numbers together to figure out whether or not the theater has enough seats? We've been talking about a lot of different addition strategies. How do we add bigger numbers together, 2-digit numbers together? Okay, so I want for you to take a minute. I want for you to look at these numbers. You're going to pause the video. You're going to solve this number story. You're going to write it out on a piece of paper just like you would in class. I want for you to explain it. I want for you to use words and numbers, pictures if you need to. Whatever strategy works best for you. Right? Let's talk about some of those strategies because we haven't been together for a while and we did just have spring break. So I want to refresh your minds a little bit. We could use base 10 blocks, right? We're trying to move away from that, but we could use base 10 blocks. We could use tens and ones. We could use partial sums, which means kind of just like base 10 blocks, but instead of drawing the actual blocks, we take all of our tens, add them together, take all of our ones and add them together. Right? You also could look at friendly numbers. You can think about what numbers are going to come together really easily. Are there any tens? Are there any double facts that you could use? So you can also use perhaps an open number line. Open number line is going to be a little bit more work, but maybe open number lines work really well for you. You would want to start with your biggest number and then start adding your smaller numbers on from there. So there's lots of different strategies that you could use. Using our fingers is not going to be one of them. We're going to try not to use our fingers. We want to use all of those other strategies that we have learned and practiced and talked about. So I'm going to show you one more time the question. Now, I'm hoping that a link I sent to some of your parents was the actual open response form. And you could print it out and do it on there, but a piece of blank paper is just fine. You can just keep this up in front of you. Pause, because after you unpause it and you've done all the work, I'm going to show you some different ways that other students, other second graders, have solved this number story. All right, so go ahead and pause it, read through it, make sure you have a piece of blank paper or a dry erase board, something to write on. And when you're ready, you can unpause and we'll talk about different ways that we could have solved this number story and whether or not 100 seats is enough for our schools. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. Just want to make sure that we're recording here. Just take a look at this first example of a student that solved the number story. And the answer to their question was yes, they think there is enough seats. And here is their explanation. So they actually just did a number model. And they took all the numbers and lined them up. They lined up their tens and their ones. And then what they did is they added up the ones and then they added up the tens. So that's what these two numbers are. So 1 plus 3 plus 9 plus 2 equals 15. That's where that came from. 9 plus 1 is 10. 3 plus 2 is 5. 10 plus 5 is 15. Then they took the tens, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and that's where their 80 came from. They took the ones plus the tens, and they got 95, right? Here is another way that you could have solved it. This is using base 10 blocks, right? So they made 21, 13, 42, and 19. They added them all together. It says I counted the tens first, right? Then I counted the ones next, and the answer is yes. So they said 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. And then I would count all of these nines, right? And I would say 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, right? So those are two ways that you could have solved it. This is a third way, but I wouldn't recommend this way. And I'm going to tell you why. So I want to actually show it to you because I want to show you why this would not be a good way to show your answer. So yes, they answered it correctly. Yes, they got 95, right? But they didn't explain how they came up with it. From here, it seems like they said, okay, 21 plus 13. So 21 plus 13 is going to be 34. Then they did 34 plus 42, right? 34 plus 42 is they're going to get 76. Right? And then they did 76 plus 19. So even though this is a fine way, if your brain could figure it out that way, but they didn't use words to explain it. So I would have wanted this person to say, first I started with 21 plus 13 and got 34. Right? Then I took 34 and added 42. So I would want them to use words along with the numbers to tell me how they got the answer. So yes, they got 95. Yes, it is correct, but I would have wanted to see a little bit more explanation. I like this one because they not only use numbers, pictures, but they also use their words. And this one also was a good strategy, but maybe some explanation. Okay, explain to me how you did it. First, I added the tens and got 15. Then I added got the ones, got 15. Then I added the tens and got 80. And then I added them together. Okay, so hopefully you came up with the right answer. And if you didn't, that's okay. I want you to think about where you made your mistake. I want you to think about how you could fix that mistake. And if you came up with your own strategy that worked for you, that's awesome. All right, that's it for math today. I will see you guys later. Bye.